Alright guys, I'm going to show you 4 quick comps to get some wins on the PBE. So the first comp I'm using here is Rangers and Knights. I'm using Aphelios here with a Deathblade, which I feel is the one core item on this comp, and Rageblade is pretty nice too. This is because Aphelios' ability basically splashes across the enemy units, and so if any of them die, he'll add to the Deathblade stacks. Also feel, just attack speed is always good, especially with the innate ranger bonus, and then some sustain item, basically the Bloodthirster there to give him some survivability. I went with the Knights frontline because originally I just wanted to try and do a 3-star Leona with the Gargoyle breastplates, the ones that give them more health as more units target them. I heard it was really broken because Leona's ability basically reduces the amount of damage per hit she takes, and then Knights also reduces the amount of damage per hit. So imagine having that plus, self-healing plus the additional armor and magic resist for the normal Gargoyle breastplate. So that pretty much would have created the ultimate tank, but you see here I'm at 7 Leonas. I wasn't quite able to 3-star. But at this point, Aphelios is really stealing the show, just a ton of damage there. Kind of curious how this would work with a Cavalier frontline or a different frontline as well. I don't think you need Knights necessarily. I think I'm against a Revenant and looks like Nightbringer comp. Haven't really seen this before and haven't really seen Volibear used too much. In this situation, I actually am coming from behind. I was pretty much dead, or I could have died in the earlier rounds, and these guys had a lot more health. So just trying to claw back. Luckily with Aphelios, I think with the Deathblade, he's probably one of the strongest carries, at least that I've used so far. I haven't used Kale. I think Vel'Koz and Redeemed is probably stronger too than Aphelios, but only when he's like the last guy alive and he has a ton of buffs. So this looks like the final fight against a Hellion. Hellion does surprisingly well, I feel, at least in my elo, like around 2,000, 3,000, playing a few games in Hyperroll. Was able to win a game, so not too surprised to see him up here. If he gets the Teemo, I feel like that's like a real huge power spike for that comp. But yeah, Knights Rangers is pretty consistent, I feel, with a tanky front line and then getting Aphelios up and running. So this next game shows 6 Skirmisher. I was just playing whatever in the early game and just managed to roll a bunch of Skirmisher units since I was uncontested. Luckily, I think the key is Jax, so luckily I got him at level 7 right away and I had pretty good items. So I just went around and pivoted straight to Jax. Even at 1-star, he does a lot of damage, and especially with Skirmisher, they have built-in shield and built-in attack damage into their comp. So I feel like once you hit 6, it's actually, it's like Elderwood from last patch. It's both defensive and offensive. I do lose here, but that's because I didn't have too many or all of the guys 2-starred. Kind of luck out there, get Jax 2-starred right away. Once I hit 2-star Jax, I feel like that was such a huge power spike. And you'll see here I'm against a Abomination player, and Jax just goes to work here. With the he even gets the aura speed boost. He just wails on people. At this point, I feel like Skirmisher, when it gets online, it is just unstoppable. It's like a juggernaut. You'll even see in this next round against this player, he has a decent comp as well, but it just doesn't matter. Like, people are melting to the combination of Jax, even Viego kind of getting back in their backline and CCing some of their carries. It's just a really strong comp. So here I'm against another Abomination player, and this is the closest fight, it feels, mostly because Jax got stunned by something at the start, which kind of slowed him down. And I have 3 Ironclad, which doesn't really help if they have a lot of magic damage, but even then, it's not really that close. This is probably the closest fight after I got the 2-star Jax, but still it's like 2 units. So here's the last fight, it's basically just even I positioned Jax away from their carry, and it forced Jax to walk all the way around my own front line, which I think was the wrong move. But I mean, it really it didn't really matter. Just Jax basically taking out everyone, well, until he dies right there. But still doesn't matter. Trundle is enough to finish as well. So this next comp is Hellion, which part of this game I hadn't really won with on Hyperroll or on normal actually either. I felt it was more of an early game comp, and I wasn't sure how to get it to work other than going for the spat item, which is pretty hard to count on. So here I just have your standard Ziggs carry, and at this point in the game I have high health because Hellion I think has a pretty good early game, but I start losing basically once people get their carries online, and Ziggs is just not doing enough damage to really cut through their front line anymore. So in this next round I swap out Ziggs. I have Teemo now and some decent items on him. So even at a 1-star, Teemo does a lot more than Ziggs does, and especially the AoE, he's able to significantly cut down their front line against Forgotten, which is a pretty strong late game. And here, it's pretty close right here. Against the last unit, it's just Teemo. Here's where I'm not too sure what even happens. It seems Teemo somehow kills this guy and then just like pops up on top of him. If someone can explain that, that'd be great. I really don't know how I won that one. This next one, pretty much the same, relying on Teemo carry. I feel like Morello's is going to be pretty good this patch because there's a lot of traits that have healing, is it like redeemed, and then there's a Bloodthirster, which is now viable on a lot of carries. So here, I win. Thing with Hellion, it's sometimes hard to tell if you're winning or losing a fight because you only start the game with like half of the units because when they die they spawn another Hellion. Here I get the Teemo 2-starred, and he's doing a lot more now. Just able to cut down a lot of their units, but my situation here is not great, and these fights are real close actually. So I mean, Teemo just ends up absolutely carrying me here with a ton of his damage, and that GA item is pretty clutch. So here's the last fight. I have to say I don't think I deserved to win this game, and I really didn't think I was going to win at the time because my HP was really low early, and somehow like I didn't think it was enough just having Teemo in this comp, but I guess that's how it works. You just have these like meat shields, and then you get Teemo for the late game, and it's enough to carry you. Especially I like this item, the cursed GA. It's actually really nice on certain carries. So in this last comp, I have Dawnbringer. Start off with Dawnbringer from the early game, and I pivot into Redeemed just because I see a lot of Redeemed units and Lux. I try to keep in mind what I can pivot to. So here I'm against some kind of Ranger comp with Cavaliers. I usually use Knights, just like my previous comp with Rangers, but in this case, I guess you can make it work with other front lines too. Oh, so I just have some 3 random Zizirats. I'm not sure why I chose to go for that, but actually it looks pretty strong. It kind of adds like more frontline units, and especially the true damage when they blow up. That's actually pretty useful. And you'll notice here, like it's pretty common in Redeemed. The last unit gets super buff, so even without all those items, Lux is actually really strong. So here I get probably my favorite unit in the set, Vel'Koz. It's just something so cool about a Cyclops shooting a laser and just watching those the HP bars drop. It's just really satisfying overall. So yeah, Vel'Koz, especially when he's the last unit in a redeemed comp, he gets all that extra AP and just able to melt units. And that's just happening here. He's just shooting these the Zizirot abominations are actually really good, it feels, for this comp. And just giving Vel'Koz the time to melt the other. What's interesting to me about this comp is that Aatrox actually is doing a lot of damage, even at just 2-star, and he's got a lot of tankiness to him. I mean, his items are just ZZ Rot portals, so he gets health and attack speed, but that actually benefits him a lot, you know, because he has the self-heal, especially when he's one of the few redeemed units left. He gets all that scaling from the extra stats, and see here, he becomes a pretty formidable frontline, you know, not really dying, just able to self-heal. And you know, even if he does die, he still generates ZZ Rot portals, so that's huge actually. ZZ Rot, especially the Shadow version, I think is really strong in this patch. So I'm fighting a pretty strange comp here. It looks to be some Legionnaires, some Abominations, and a Vel'Koz too, surprisingly. And I also hit Vel'Koz too myself. It's pretty funny watching them just laser each other. I'm pretty sure this was one of my first Hyperroll games after the weekend, where my elo was like in the 1000s. So I was seeing some really strange comps. You know, here I was pretty much just trying the meta TFT.com, just some random, you know, strong comps, just to see, you know, why they were strong and see how strong the carries are. The PBE, I'm kind of treating it as just, you know, trying to learn what the comps do, what the heroes do. So I'm just trying to try as, you know, many comps as I can, and you know, before it goes live. I think this will be a pretty fun patch. You know, there's just a lot of viable carries, especially late game. I feel, you know, last patch there weren't that many strong like 4 or 5 cost carries. There were more like splash units almost. But yeah, this patch you have like so many, you know, carries at the 4 and 5 position. So it's I think good for flex players, because you can pivot into, you know, any of these open carries and then just take your comp further from there. I think before the weekend I was seeing in normal, because I was playing a lot more of that, pretty interesting ZZ Rot portal build. You can see he has 2 here. You know, if you didn't know, it's because, you know, with Abominations you'll actually spawn twice the amount of ZZ Rots, 1 for the unit that their item is originally on, and then 1 once the unit, once the Abomination dies and it has the ZZ Rot portals. But in this case I'm fighting back with some ZZ Rots of my own and able to take that down. So for the last fight I'm against the same guy. I haven't really changed much on my comp. No, I kind of split my efforts between Vel'Koz, the Spellweaver, and then Varus with Ranger buff. You know, I was just kind of like not sure what to do. I think, you know, optimally I might have tried to get the IE on Vel'Koz if I knew that I was just going to go for him. And then, yeah, because he has the Jewel Gauntlet, probably do a lot of damage there. But the list basically recommended to get the Sojins to, I guess, cast earlier. Here, this is actually a lot closer. Vel'Koz ends up dying, and it becomes a ZZ Rot versus ZZ Rot. So in this case, that's enough for the win, and able to pull that out with Redeemed. If you like the content, please like and subscribe. I'll try and make some more videos from the PBE leading up to when the patch goes live. Thanks for watching.